super shiny forehead today. Had an adventure this week where I got my first ever facial. Never had a facial before. There's this weird thing that happens. You guys don't care. There's this weird thing that happens where I put face moisturizer on, even makeup, and there was something she put on my face at this place where I got my facial at in Ellsworth, Maine. Where it burns my eyes. Like my eyes just can't handle whatever it is there's some sort of ingredient in makeup and moisturizer, and when applied to the eyes, like my skin can't handle it, and I just like I just want to go to sleep. It hurts so much. Hey, I'm Sarah. This is NextGEN Medium vlog. This is when you get to see the raw, uncut version of the podcast that I got going on for the week. The color looks really weird on this. Oh well. So this week we're going more into. Oh, you know what? I can't hear myself. I like to hear myself. I'm pretty egotistic, so it comforts me. To hear my voice. Oh, so soothing. So last week we were talking about opening up and receiving. This is a part of the process that is like the gold mine. Like people want to know this part because this is going to unlock all your truths, all your awareness of all your abilities. And so I'm going to burst that bubble. And we're going to talk about the obstacles that you have to overcome in order to open up and receive, and for it to function well, in order to get messaging and be able to take it in and then interpret it and receive it, or deliver it. So here we are in this process where you've already kind of grounded. So you're already in your calm state and you're focusing inward. And this is the part of the process where you're opening up your soul senses and you're starting to receive, because the soul senses are bringing in information. I'm going to get more into this stuff with the podcast is already recording. Because sometimes when I talk about it here, I forget that I haven't talked about it in the podcast and my brain doesn't understand time. So I just want to make sure I get all the bits of information in the podcast too. So we're going to be talking about the obstacles you got to overcome, and they all suck, but they're all things that I've come across, every single one of these things, and that I'm assuming you will be coming across too. This is why it's so difficult. Okay, so that's what we're doing on this episode. Let's do it. Okay, now I got to do it. I got to be clever about opening this up. In the last episode, we talked about opening up and receiving, and the act of doing it, of going from your grounded state to unfurling your soul senses and taking in information, just receiving, not interpreting yet, just receiving. It sounds, first of all, I talked about it for a half hour, but the actual time that elapses during that time of from your grounded state to interpreting messaging can be like an instant, maybe 3 seconds. So these long drawn out discussions that I'm imparting upon you really don't reflect the ease that occurs, the instinct of this act. And I feel like I'm over analyzing this whole situation, but I just want to set you up to understand what's happening and how it can happen, how it works for me. Because I think if you have an understanding, it helps set you up. It helps sets up your expectations. The fact of the matter is nobody's really talking about this kind of stuff, and when they do, it's so generalized, and I can understand why it's generalized because it's different for everybody, but I do think there are some guideposts that can be set for all of us to be able to connect with our soul abilities and our soul senses and use them as a tool. So, I'm losing my I'm losing what I'm trying to get to here. This is just the intro, like, there's really nothing here that I need to say too much. But there's a lot of difficulties that are involved with just this step of opening up and receiving. When you're first starting out, there's a lot of things you need to work through. And if I can give you my point of view of the things that were obstacles for me to overcome, then your expectation is being set that it's not an easy transition, that you can take it easy on yourself if you feel frustrated. And I think if you identify with some of these things, a majority of these things, or just one thing, that is a victory within itself for you, that you are on the right path of getting to know your soul abilities and soul senses. Okay. So even though these are frustrating things, it's frustrating because it's part of the process. Okay. So we're going to become familiar with the obstacles of opening up and receiving messaging. I have 4 categories that we're going to work on, that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the difficulties of understanding the mechanics. We're going to talk about the difficulties of being able to trust. We're going to talk about the difficulties of the process itself. And then we're going to talk about the difficulties of how it reframes the world as you know it. No big deal. Just take it as it is. Your whole world's going to change after this. But your whole world should change if this is what you want to do. And that is this episode on NextGEN Medium, the podcast. Your whole world's going to change. Okay. Hey, I'm Sarah Nickerson. I'm the founder of NextGEN Medium, and my goal is to make people aware of their psychic, intuitive, mediumship, healing abilities, these soul abilities, and being able to recognize your soul senses. And I am a psychic medium intuitive. I uncovered this only a couple years ago. And so living a life for quite a while, being completely unaware of these skills that I had, of these tools I had, and then being awakened to this world, sensing it in ways that I'd never had before, makes me believe that everybody has these abilities. You just don't know how to get there. I believe it's instinctual. And there's a lot of things that we're going to discuss today that are bigger picture problems when it comes to getting to know your soul abilities and your soul senses. But we're really directing it today to what we talked about in the last episode of opening up and receiving. So, in the process of doing your mediumship or doing your psychic stuff or your intuition or even healing, there's a kind of a process that's involved. And after doing the grounding procedure, where you're just basically just focusing your attention inward, and gaining a baseline of what it feels like to be you in your body with your thoughts, which really doesn't need a lot of analysis. The next step is opening up and receiving. We talked about that last episode, where it's a place within your mind that takes in the subtle messaging from your soul senses. Um, and it's a place that requires you to be undistracted, or is it undistracted? Is that even a word? To be not distracted, to be able to focus inward on what's going on in your mind and taking in those subtle messages with your psychic senses, your soul senses, your meta senses, whatever word you want to use there, which you see or you feel or you hear or you just know. And all of this information is taken when you're able to focus inward, not using the physical senses. So when you open up, you activate your attention to focal points around you in your space. And at first it doesn't. Is the heater going to go off? Let's say no. At first it nah. At first, when you receive your messaging, it doesn't seem like there's a place that it comes from. It's just kind of, whoa, oh, there it is. But with time, you start being able to distinguish, actually, there's a place within your space, maybe inside you, maybe outside of you a little bit, where information is coming from. And understanding these focal points allows you to understand with time what clairs are giving you the information or what soul abilities. Now, when I say clairs, I'm also talking about soul senses, psychic senses, meta senses. Oh my God, there's so many words for the same thing. But the tools that are sensing and bringing information, that's what that is. And then your soul ability is the mode in which you are taking in your psychic, your mediumship, your intuition, your healing. So we talked about this place, getting to the place of opening up and allowing information to come through. It really does take clearing the minds and allowing whatever's going to happen. And so you kind of have to give up control and just sit and wait and allow and take in. And that's hard within itself. The process is so quick. It's ridiculous to even talk about this stuff in length, because I think for someone new coming into it, it can be like, holy crap, this is really overwhelming. All this information about something that's supposed to take 2 seconds. When you are practicing doing it, don't think about this stuff. Let your instincts draw you in, guide you. Let your curiosity bring you to the places. As you practice and you start seeing rhythms and repetitions, that's when you can come to this information that I have for you. So you can start distinguishing what's happening and maybe recognizing what's happening, just to get a clearer picture. Because nobody else is talking about this stuff. Nobody else is saying, what sucks about this stuff. And so that's what we're focusing on today. Holy crap, Sarah, stop talking. And so that's what we're focusing on today. We're talking about the obstacles, the difficulties of opening up and receiving. We have 4 categories. We're going to talk about the difficulties of understanding the mechanics. We're going to talk about the difficulties in trusting. We're going to talk about the difficulties in the process. And lastly, saving the best for last, how trusting in this, engaging in this stuff, trying to understand your soul abilities, your soul senses, how it reframes the world, challenges how you understand the world right now. It's a big one. But with all this stuff in mind, this is stuff to have a heads up on as you continue your journey and you start venturing forward into your own personal journey, your own personal education. And there's only one person that can have this education for you specifically. It is you. Nobody can take your hand and take you step by step. It really is you leading yourself. But there are guideposts that I can set. So once you get there and you feel like you're there and trust that you're there, maybe it's not super trusting, but you have an inkling, then this is the information you're going to need in the future. So let's get started on the difficulties of the mechanics of understanding those mechanics of opening up and receiving messaging. So there's stuff that when we start diving into opening up and receiving messaging that challenge us because of the mechanics of the process. And a lot of it has to do with we just don't understand it. Like we don't even have a lot of vocabulary about this stuff. Um, it's not generally accepted in society. So, how can we really have a great understanding of the mechanics? Science can't even explain stuff, you know? And again, nobody's really researching it. So, don't get me started on that. So, my first point when it comes to the difficulties of the mechanics of this is that we are just not used to taking in the moment and being able to sit and be undistracted. I don't think that's a word. What the hell word am I supposed to be using? Um, to just sit and take in what's going on just in your brain. That is something that is foreign to a lot of us. We are used to being constantly distracted, and we are not used to just sitting and focusing our attention inward. This act within itself is very hard for people. I've come across so many people that say they just can't meditate. Meditating is being able to shut off external sensing, your physical senses, and to focus on your internal, your mental, soul, psychic, meta senses, clairs. Oh, so many words. And I almost like don't know what to say to people when they say like I just can't sit and meditate because it's like, oh God. But that's what you need to do in order to witness stuff, you know? That's how I know it. Not saying it's not impossible to not be able to meditate and receive messaging. The possibilities are endless in my world. But if you can't quiet the mind, if you can't be distracted by the things around you, how do you listen to what goes on inside? How do you watch it? How do you witness it? That's the word. How do you observe it? Luckily, I've have one person that I've been staying in connection with, and she at first was like, "I don't know how to meditate," you know? And then she got back to me and was like, "Hey, I think I figured it out." So, I think you just gotta keep trying. You gotta keep trying to quiet that mind. And I know there's, some ways that people use their brain or, how their brain functions, where it's really hard to just sit still. It's just hard. It's hard to focus. And if these things are what's hindering your process, then these are things you need to work on before you can really start getting into this stuff. That's my perspective. I'm not saying that there's another way for this all to go down, but I just can't. If you can't take in the moments, then I don't know if this is where you need to be right now. Ugh, putting the hammer down already. The next point, oh my God, I got to rip through this stuff. The next point is that we don't understand our energy and we don't understand how it works. We are clueless to the influence of our energy, the information we give off through our energy. It tells everybody everything, yet we believe that we can fool you all. This is not how energy works. Energy is a quote truth serum that you just can't control. You can't control that you're emitting information about, I don't know, the tumor in your gallbladder. You can't control that someone could tap into your energy and know that you've had identity issues since puberty. You can't hide that stuff because your energy is emitting it. It's just how it works. Our energy is capable of telling everything about ourselves without us even being aware that that's what's happening. We also don't understand that we take in information from energy. So, as much as we're emitting it, we are also able to take it in from other people, other sources. We don't understand that our energy is influenced by others' energy, and sometimes we take on the energy of others. We are sadly disserviced by the lack of scientific research about this stuff, but in commonplace society, this is considered woo woo or hippy dippy and a farce. It's fake. But if we truly understood the extent that our energy controls everything, we could understand the actual power that we behold. It takes time to really see it for yourself because we're so clouded by our perceptions. And once you start working with your energy more in different ways, you see its influence and you see its power. And the third point when it comes to the difficulties of understanding the mechanics of this stuff is that we don't recognize and aren't aware of soul abilities. These are tools that pick up information. And not only do we not recognize how our energy works, but we aren't aware of the senses we have that take in the information from the energy. We are not conditioned to taking in information other than from our physical senses. It is commonly believed that the physical senses are the only thing that take in information for us to process. And in this world of soul abilities, soul work, that's not how it works. There's more to it. We are also taught we aren't taught to focus inward internally in the mind and take in our imagination. And we are also taught that the imagination is not a place of truth. The process that you are looking to advance in the soul abilities is a test of trust that these psychic soul senses you possess are actually a way of taking in information. Okay. Next up, we are going to focus on trust. There is trust needed in this world of using your soul abilities. That's hard to give up. And one of the biggest obstacles is that we need to trust ourselves. We need to trust in ourselves. We are conditioned to believe we are helpless, that we need things outside of ourselves in order to be safe, in order to feel secure, in order to feel value. This is a heavy one. But in the process of using your soul abilities, processing information, using your soul senses, that would be taking in information, using your soul senses, processing what you receive and delivering it. That takes a trust in yourself that you need to gain. And I can imagine a lot of people would feel very uncomfortable with this responsibility, with having to trust yourself. We're not supposed to trust ourselves. That's what we've been not told our whole lives, but it's how we've been manipulated. Ugh, I'm getting conspiracy here, and I don't mean to, but being on the other side of seeing this soul world from the experience I've had and uncovering the things that I had no idea that were mine, it's hard for me to look at the old world, the physical world, and not connect with all the ways we are controlled and manipulated. And I think part of it has to do with how I see others' perspective about soul abilities, and how everybody's like, "Oh, that's crap," cynical, skeptical. I'm totally fine with skeptical. Don't be cynical. That one goes to Jasmine. Jazzmatazz. But anyway, okay, diatribe over. We also need to trust what can't be seen or measured. Currently, science hasn't really come out to be, helping us out with our case here. Not that we need to defend ourselves, but it would be nice for science to be going along with what we're talking about, what we believe, what we know to be true, and having faith in something that is deemed illogical is hard for the egoic mind to handle. I would say for myself, I was okay internally with accepting this as a truth. But when it came to presenting my understanding to everybody else in the world, my ego had a really, really hard time with that. So get used to the phrase. Get used to the phrase. Trust what you get. Because it is at the core of observing and taking in information. Not trusting what comes through, dismissing what the senses give you, second guessing, overanalyzing. That's a trick of the ego. And you need to trust the information. Get used to this phrase. You're going to hear it, see it, and feel it a lot. And there's going to be so many things that come along to say, wait a second. No, that can't be right. Trust the information. You are there just to get it and pass it along. Don't sit with it like it's your prized possession. Got to let it go. Next up is the difficulty in being in the process. Now, when I talk about, my God, when I talk about being in the process, I'm talking about practicing it. So it's not like a one-time being in the process, this is the difficulty. No, it's practicing it, doing it over and over. And so the obstacles and difficulties of being in the process of learning it, becoming familiar with it. One is that you have expectations of how this is going to go down. There goes the heater. Oh my God. I'm already 27 minutes in. My goal is always to do 25 to 35 minutes for an episode. Might have to do some heavy editing for this. I'm stopping because my heater's going off. My furnace is going off. If you watch these before, you know, this guy is like bane of my existence. And I stopped because you can pick it. It picks up on the microphone. Oh my God. For the podcast. Not so much for the vlog. So now I can do a little dance. All right, done. Okay. What are we going to talk about? Something new I've started. I think I'm going to continue doing because I like doing it. This stuff's not going in the podcast, by the way. Just waiting for the furnace. I've been going to Reddit, and I actually became part of a subreddit called Psychic Development. And people post questions up there about their development. And so I thought, hey, wait a second. Maybe I'll answer the questions. And I'm doing it through the vlog here. And I have one up already, and I have another question that I'm ready to talk about. What I like doing with these questions is I read the question as it was presented. And then I kind of analyze the question. I try to answer what I believe they're trying to ask. But there are ways that we talk about this stuff, especially people getting into it. Even people I talk to who've been doing it for a long time. We talk about this stuff, and everybody has a different way of talking about things. And it's like, okay, hold on. Psychic, it does not encompass all the things. Doesn't encompass the intuition or the mediumship or the psychic is actually very specific about this stuff, you know? And so when you're talking about psychic powers, giving you a clue of what's coming your way here on the vlog. When you're talking about psychic powers, this is what you're actually talking about. But maybe what you want to know is tapping into your mediumship or getting to know your intuition, how your higher self talks to you. These are different components, but in this bigger, I don't know, bigger societal viewpoint of this kind of stuff, it all gets deemed psychic. And the vocabulary about all this stuff is atrocious. Sarah, that's me. I'm a freak with my spreadsheets, and I like things in categories. I like things to neatly be put in a little box. I like color coding. I like tags and categories. When that stuff's not there, like this world, it drives me absolutely crazy. I get a little angry sometimes. No, I shouldn't. Because that's not the energy to bring to the world. Oh man, I think I'm losing my mind. It's Friday and the weather is starting to get nice. Oh, okay. So I'm going crazy. All right, I'm going to redo this expectations part. So part of the process that gets really frustrating, a lot of obstacles here, is the expectations you set for yourself. So you have expectations. We are in a society where all we do are have expectations. And if you don't come to work 5 days a week, if you aren't if your kid doesn't wear pants to school, like these are expectations that are set and there are ways that you should be feeling if you don't meet those expectations, right? And the fact of the matter is you're going in kind of blind because you're leading yourself courageously, by the way, into an unknown world. How can you have expectations in a new world? You can't. And so you really need to treat it like that and give yourself lots of slack. And I'm not saying slack off. I'm saying take it easy. Take it easy on yourself. Don't have expectations. Oh, I've been doing this for a week and I still don't know where I'm at. It's okay. Like, it's just part of the process. And it sucks, I know. But once you start seeing the truth, it does get easier. And we just need to be able to say, hey, ego, simmer down. Anything that's at fault is your ego. um, it's true. Your ego can't handle having expectations right now. So don't set those expectations, even though you're going to do it anyway. It's what we do, right? We got to see results. Also, difficult part of the process is this learning process is not linear and it's not one size fits all. There's no guide to it. Oh, it's just like parenthood. Just like parenthood. When you're thrusted into the throes of parenthood, you think you've read the books. Maybe you've had little brothers or little sisters. Maybe you have a better insight than I did. I was the youngest and I was never around kids. So once I had kids, it was like, holy crap, what did I get myself into? I'm in a different place than, the girl who babysat kids for the last 10 years. As you can see, becoming parents would not be a linear thing for either of us, and it would not be a one size fits all for both of us, because I have different skills than she does and she has different skills than I do. Wow, what a parallel. And it's the same thing for learning the soul abilities. There are no instructions. Everybody needs different things. Everybody has different obstacles. Everybody has different truths to have to face. And for those beginning to explore the process of grounding and opening up and receiving and interpreting, or trying to discern the transition from a grounded state to an open state, all that, there may be multiple times of transition in order to know what it feels like. And you may need to tap into your messaging first, have experience in its spectacle, have verifications of your imagery before you really start to dissect or feel compelled to familiarize yourself with your process. So you might need to see the payoff before you start to understand how it all works. Maybe you need to be compelled by that instant gratification thing. I was a lot. And I would say after 2 years of doing this stuff, now I can break this down for you guys. Like, that gives you a timeline of how long it took me, and not saying that it was a long time or that it was a short time. It was just my time. To think that this is a step-by-step learning process is a very logical human condition that you need to bypass. Take interest in what draws you in, then discover the process as it comes to you. Don't force yourself into the process, or you won't feel and understand its beauty. Then it'll become work. You don't want it to be work. And last of all, kind of already touched upon this, it does take time and it takes patience to tune in. That connected place is quite foreign to us to begin with, as is the place we go to in our minds to open up, to prepare to take in what our psychic soul senses are receiving. Breaking down the steps, you see a lot in this process, but it doesn't take a lot of time to shift from one to another. Defining this is understanding mechanics, but it will take time to discern these in your process. Allow yourself time in learning where your grounded state is, where your attention is drawn, how you observe with what soul senses. I'm giving you guideposts, but it really is your journey. Okay. Last thing we need to talk about: the obstacles with opening up and receiving. Experiencing this and learning its truths, learning to trust. All of this means you have to reframe the world that you know. Means the world that you understand it, how you understand it, is not the world as it actually is. The world that you understand is perceived in a certain way. Uncovering the soul abilities will mean you have to perceive the world in a new, different way. We have three subjects. Three subjects? We got 3 things to talk about with this one. One is understanding your soul abilities, getting familiar with them, exercising to get there, to be there. It really challenges what we know of our reality and the norms of our society. Not everyone has psychic abilities. That's wrong. Everybody does. The world according to me. We are led to believe that only special people have that. I don't think so. I'm not buying that. The stuff that you're receiving and messaging, it's just my imagination. So does that mean it's wrong? Because there's a lot of things that live in the imagination that we live in our everyday life. The imagination opens up possibility. Ooh, I can't say that. That's the next one. Are you willing to stick your neck out and say you are willing to accept paranormal things are a part of your life? How do you think people are going to react to that? Having this become your reality is also taking along with it challenging how our society understands this stuff. And that includes the scientific world. And that is a place of truth for many of us, depending on who you are. And perhaps getting into this really challenges what you believe to be true. And maybe religion's a part of that too. Growing up in a religious society and tapping into psychic ability could be seen as evil. And maybe you have to challenge, maybe you're over the reality thing, but maybe the norm of that, as maybe your family believes that this stuff is evil and here you are doing it. There's some challenging that needs to be done, and how you fit in this society as the reputable person with integrity and belief in science. But here you are saying you can read people's minds. People aren't going to think of you the same way. Another way that the world gets reframed after getting in touch with this stuff, it means the impossible is possible. Along with trusting information that comes in is understanding that when you are opening and observing, you set the boundaries of logical and illogical, of impossible and possible. Is it your place to make the impossible possible? It requires openness to possibility, where witnessing fact is irrelevant, because anything's possible. I'm such a big David Bowie fan. I had to put in a Dave Bowie thing. You set the controls, Major Tom. You set the limits. How much boundary you put in your openness can separate you from the decent messengers to the outstanding ones. It takes time to understand that what you are receiving, is it truth? I don't know if I want to go there. Tapping into this place makes you realize the fears that you bound yourself to. And so we start becoming more in tune with what we deem impossible because of what we're scared of. And then once we're able to separate ourselves from that, to see it from a distance more, we're able to see the possibility that we weren't able to see before, that we'd conditioned ourselves to be bound by. And that would be something for you to have to digest and get comfortable with, and maybe free yourself from. And last up is the most heaviest burden, and that's having to face yourself. You get in the way with your egoic stuff, your fears, your judgments. Your ego is just trying to protect your social status, where you belong in this society. And there's so many times that the ego wants to challenge the new things that you're experiencing because it can't handle wavering that social status. And this is when you need to be honest with yourself. And this is when you start gaining priority, when you start getting priority, when your priorities start changing, and you start realizing how much control your ego has over you and how it's really hindering you, how it's keeping you from happiness, really. You need to learn to detach yourself from what the ego values. It does not serve the higher purpose. That's what your intuition's for. That's your higher self. You need to detach yourself from what the ego values. You are just the witness. It is not the sole entity. It is only a piece, the egoic self. I'm not going to say that. Sarah. All right. Whew. That was a heavy episode. And there's a lot of truths in there from my own experience. I think there's a lot of things that a lot of people can resonate with in this. If you've been in your journey and have had difficulties of just opening up and receiving messaging, it's not easy. What's amazing is it is instinctual. How could something instinctual be so difficult for us to tap into? I've got my own thoughts. And I think what it really has to do with is showcasing how malleable being a human being can be. When you are led to believe that you don't have something that you do have, that's yours, that nobody can take away from you, and that is for you to discover. You start to gain a perspective that things really aren't what they seem. And what else don't you know about yourself? But what I think is important about this episode is to know that when you're in practice, there are so many obstacles that you need to overcome. And it's just stuff that you've learned how to be in this world. And by this world, I mean the physical world. Being in the soul sensing world, it's not really something that's nurtured in our society. That could change. But do understand that you are learning a new language. You're learning a new way to exist in this world. Breaking what you've been conditioned to do. As you can imagine, this would be difficult for anybody, and it can be difficult for you too. And that's okay. That's okay. That's what makes the payoff even more sweet. And it takes time. So stick with it. Know you're not alone with these thoughts. Maybe it was hard to verbalize some of these things and hearing them. Maybe it gives you a little bit of relief. Okay, all right, I feel like that. This is why. And know that maybe now that you've heard it verbalized, you can recognize it in yourself and go from there. You're not going to be stuck there forever. Unless you want to be. I would not recommend that. This is going to be a bitch to edit. Because this was basically me having a conversation with myself. That does it for this episode of NextGEN Medium, the podcast. Want to see those all written out? Go to my blog, nextgenmedium.com. And I've got it all written out for you if you're the kind of person that likes to read it. That's me. Oh, I forgot my little notes here. And while you're at my website, you can sign up to get a development session. It's a 45-minute chat. We talk about you and what you've gone through, where you want to go, what's happening, and I can help you out. You're welcome. I don't want to say that. Sign up for that at my website, nextgenmedium.com. Find a place, find a date and time in my calendar that works well for you, and we'll go from there. Check out the blog, vlog, and other podcast episodes at nextgenmedium.com. Add your name to get emails about upcoming NextGen Medium stuff like education and contests for free readings and a whole lot more. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest for all your social media liking needs. Until next time, have a pleasant rest of your day. And to all of you listening, from Redford, Michigan, North McLean, Queensland, Australia, and Slidell, Louisiana. Be safe, and I'll chat with you later. See ya. Bye. Happy spring. Okay. Hey, that was fun. I felt like I had a lot of sass in that one. And if you like this stuff, I'm going to keep doing it, whether you like it or not. But if you like it, smash the like button, smash it. And then check out the links in the description for the podcast and the blog and social media stuff in my website. If you like it this much, you can donate at nextgenmedium.com. It keeps my podcast going, keeps my website going. And you can also book an appointment and chat with me yourself so we can talk about your development, or you could just do a reading. You can do that too. And that does it for this vlog. And I got more stuff coming on our next steps of the process of learning to use your soul abilities. That is on the way. And be looking out for those Reddit questions that I answer. I got to come up with like a cool little thing for that. That just sounds ridiculous. That will be on the vlog, and those will come up whenever I feel inspired. So, and I got time to do it, which isn't right now, but very soon I will be doing it on a regular basis. Regular. All right, that's it. See you guys. Happy spring. I don't know why I do that.